On a bright afternoon drenched in sunlight, when the streets shimmered with the warmth of a day that felt almost too perfect to be real, Arvin Hale stood at the edge of Riverside Park, staring at the last few coins in his hand. He held them loosely, as if hoping they would magically multiply, though he already knew they wouldn't. His life had become a sequence of careful choices, one meal or another, bus fare or borrowed steps, medicine for his son or food for his aging dog. But what he didn't know was that within this very day, everything he believed about struggle, kindness, and fate would collide in a way even the boldest stories would hesitate to tell. And it would begin with a scream, a runaway wheelchair, and a bride dressed in white. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the magic that happens when strangers choose to help strangers, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel's Stories of Kindness right now, because what's about to unfold will stay with you long after this story ends. Arvin was a single father raising his 10-year-old son, Milo, who had been born with weak lungs and a quiet resilience that reminded Arvin daily of why he kept going. Their dog, Brisa, an old golden retriever with cloudy eyes but a heart that still thumped with loyalty, walked slowly beside them. Arvin lived paycheck to paycheck, working part-time as a repairman for whatever jobs he could find, but his real battles began each month when Milo's medical bills arrived like unwelcome storms. Still, he kept moving, believing that as long as he had Milo and Brisa, he had enough strength to face whatever life placed in front of him. That sunny afternoon, the park was alive with families, vendors, and the kind of gentle, carefree noises Arvin rarely experienced. He had taken Milo there to distract him from another cancelled doctor appointment they couldn't afford. While Milo sat beneath a large oak tree sketching Brisa in his tattered notebook, Arvin scanned job listings on his cracked phone, hoping for just one opportunity that could ease their next few weeks. The world felt heavy but familiar until a sharp, panicked shout tore through the calm air. Arvin jerked his head up. He saw a white wheelchair speeding uncontrollably down the sloping hill that led toward the lake. The wheels rattled violently, bouncing over uneven ground. And in the chair was a woman dressed in a simple but elegant white dress, a veil pinned loosely to her dark hair by trembling fingers. One of her hands struggled desperately with the control knob while the other gripped the armrest as the chair gained terrifying momentum. The path ended abruptly at a wooden barrier near the lake, a barrier too flimsy to stop anyone from tumbling into the deep water. Arvin didn't think. He sprinted. So did Brisa, faster than her old legs should have allowed. Milo dropped his notebook and stood, frozen, watching his father and dog race toward danger. The wheelchair hit a rock, tilted, and its trajectory shifted toward the edge of the path, seconds away from disaster. Arvin lunged forward, grabbing the handles of the chair just as the wheels screeched over loose gravel. His knees struck the ground hard. His palms burned. But he held on with every muscle he had. Brisa braced herself in front of the front wheels, planting her paws as if she could push back gravity itself. Together they slowed the chair, inch by inch, until it came to a stop. The woman's head fell forward as she exhaled shakily, her veil fluttering in the breeze. Up close, Arvin noticed she had striking hazel eyes, filled with a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and overwhelming relief. The wheelchair seemed newer than most, but the malfunctioning control panel blinked erratically. She looked like someone who had fought too many battles alone, someone who had prepared herself for every challenge except this one. Arvin helped reposition the chair while Brisa nudged the woman's hand gently, as if comforting her. When Milo finally reached them, he stared wide-eyed at the bride, almost forgetting to breathe. The woman introduced herself as Celestine Ward, explaining in a soft, slightly trembling voice that she had been on her way to a private lakeside vow renewal ceremony when the wheelchair's motor suddenly jammed. She hadn't wanted a big celebration, only a small, quiet moment to honor a promise from years past, a strange detail that made Arvin wonder why she was completely alone. When she tried to restart the chair, it made a crackling sound and abruptly shut down. Celestine let out a sigh that carried more than frustration, it carried years of fatigue. Arvin could sense there was far more heartbreak behind her calm expression. He fixed the chair with whatever tools he had in his worn backpack, though he knew it was only a temporary solution. Celestine thanked him repeatedly, her voice filled with a sincerity that made Milo study her closely, as if sensing something unusual about her. When she insisted on paying him for his help, Arvin shook his head, the way only someone who knew hardship intimately could do. He helped not for money but because it was the right thing to do. And because he knew what fear felt like, fear of losing control, fear of falling, fear of not being seen. Celestine asked if he and Milo could accompany her to the lake, just until she felt steady again. They agreed. As they walked, she told them fragments of her life, not everything, just enough to explain why she had been alone. She had been paralyzed after a devastating car accident 3 years earlier, an accident that had also taken her husband's life. The vow renewal she had planned was symbolic, a way of honoring him before finally letting herself move forward. What she didn't mention, not then, was that she was the heiress and acting owner of Ward International Holdings, one of the largest philanthropic and investment organizations in the region. She avoided mentioning it not out of pride, but because she had grown tired of people treating her differently the moment they learned who she was. At the lakeside clearing, Celestine broke down quietly. The weight of grief, the loneliness of recovery, the exhaustion of trying to live up to her late husband's ideals, it all pressed onto her at once. Milo, with the earnest innocence only children possessed, handed her the drawing he had been working on earlier, Brisa standing proudly beneath a tree. The gesture softened something inside Celestine. Arvin noticed the way she held the paper delicately, as if it was worth more than the priceless jewelry she wore.